Hello there.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Fucking welcome to Australia, mate. Beginning of the road trip. My man. Fuck yeah. Are you fucking ready, dude? Are you
I
fucking...
am. I have been thinking about Furiosa all day, about all the different things that I want to say about this movie.
How does the day find you today?
Pretty good. It's a little bit of a warm one in my neck of the woods, but like I said, I got the air conditioner going, staying out of the sun. My office gets a little warm in the afternoon because the sun hits the windows, but I'm surviving.
Okay. That's good. We are certainly not, at least for better or worse, we're certainly not here yet, temperature-wise, in terms of the real world. But that's what it affords us. And there's an element of cautionary tale to Mad Max, but it is self-admittedly just gigantic mythology and escapism, you know, wrapped up in some stuff that we'll get into, which is, you know, George Miller, like Max giving birth to himself, like he's a surrealist. I think his wife really did do what Marsha Lucas did with Lucas, which was just rein him in, you know, and allow that perfect movie to unfold. And so we're going to explore that in this one. Just it's all just riffing. A lot of the time when I'm reaching out to people, they're like, so what are we going to discuss? I'm like, have you ever had a conversation with another human before? That's what we're going to have. Hello, welcome. How are you? You're being welcomed into the halls of Valhalla right now. Okay, do you understand that, Jessie?
Oh, very cool. Excellent.
You're being hailed. That's right. And you have arrived. How does it feel to be in the pod halls of Mad Max Podcast Valhalla? You have attained, you are witnessed.
Oh, I feel honored.
I love that. Okay. Instead of this, I honestly swear that that should be you are witnessed. Actually, who knows? In Furiosa, they might, because that's what it grew into, the V8. But maybe the beta testing, they were just testing that one out, and then
they went for the cute. They were like, let's be cute first. Does that work?
Dementis was like, fuck, this isn't working. Or however, Chris Hemsworth, which is rumored. That's the thing. We think that he's playing Dementis, but they could do some interesting, like, you know, Blue Harvesty, like, you know, have us think about one thing happening, because he doesn't actually resemble Dementis as we saw him in the game, which admittedly isn't canon, but you know, we'll figure all that out. Anyway, Jessie, how does the day find you?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's warm today. Like, as as the day's going on, it's pretty warm, but it's been pretty chill today. Emotionally
developing theme.
That's right. Well, yeah, exactly. Right, yeah. Post-apocalypse. Yes, that's right. Jessie, on your notion of cool and chill, but for the edit though, I'm going to cut to this.
I loved the movie. I loved it. It was everything that I had dreamed it was going to be. A car chase through the desert with lots of colors that's secretly about women. And that is exactly what the movie was. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. Everything was just I loved it. I loved it. So when I found out that there was going to be a Furiosa origin comic, I was really excited. I'll let you know if it ever comes out. The entire point of We Are Not Things is that this group of women have decided that they are worth more than being some assholes' baby machines. They take ownership over their womanhood and their personhood, and I thought that would be because Splendid and Furiosa would teach them and help them realize that they have value beyond the walls of this bank vault. That their spirits are made of fire and that they are capable of making choices for themselves. Not because Furiosa beat it into them.
Okay, so that was Jessie completely losing it in her amazing video, which is how I discovered you, calling them out. Like, they did some things right, but that's what this podcast, we're going to talk about this, you know, going forward as well, just as we sort of follow along with the filming, kind of speculating on whether or not the filmmakers, you know, paid attention, listened to the Jessies of the world, and you know, they didn't do ideally. I think you phrased it really well in your video, in terms of the comic and stuff. So what I would love is for them to set the record straight, have it be done. And I think Anya Taylor, she's very successful. So I think she's actually gonna do her part to be like, okay, well, George, if I'm gonna do this, like, I'm Anya fucking Taylor-Joy, and I want to represent this well, not in any sort of gimmicky kind of way, but in a way that really fucking feels like you, the Jessies of the world, get done justice too. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm manifesting. 600 or so days out from this fucking film. Jesus. So I'm going to call you Jessie. I'm going to call you Rick. Rictus Erectus obviously comes to mind for Rick. You go right into this one.
I do fall right into that one.
Yeah, Rictus Erectus. Jessie. Jessie's a very Aussie name. You seem a bit Aussie. Do you have some kind of like lineage there, maybe with Irish or something? Because we're all fucking Irish over here. Yes, there you go.
Actually, yeah. Like my full name is very Irish as well, and like my grandparents, who unfortunately I never met, like they were like fresh off the boat into Canada, like kind of Irish. So yeah, I've got some of that for sure.
All right. Either of you been to Australia?
No, I haven't. It looks like it. No, it looks beautiful though. I mean, like everything's kind of on fire and also flooding at the same time.
Yeah,
but
I mean, sorry, but Mad Max Furiosa, it was actually Tourism Australia. That was our best effort to try and get people to come, but clearly people don't want the wasteland. They don't want to eat two-headed lizards. So no, I'm kidding. But yeah, you're both officially welcomed via podcast. It would be obviously, to be welcomed by like actual Indigenous folks would be like. I mean, that's who we actually want to get. I want to talk about how, like, go way back into what George Miller wanted to, he wanted to include this really surreal Indigenous figure that would appear. And so I hope that this person comes back and so we're going to dive into all of this cool stuff. So let's see, international. So Australia and yourself. So you're Canada, Jessie, I believe.
Yep.
Excellent. And Rick?
Yeah. And I'm here in the US.
The US. Okay. So that's a nice triumvirate. I can dig it. Right. Rick? Jessie, let us do a round table of each of your Mad Max stories. So Jessie, first point of encounter, your timeline, Mad Max, how did you two merge and what was there you go. How did you, how did the worlds merge?
How did I wander into the wasteland, as it were?
Indeed, it's very good.
I watched the movies as a kid with my dad, and like I kind of just vibed with the aesthetic of like the dust punk, kind of like diesel punk, kind of atmosphere a lot. Like it's less about like the lone wanderer vibe and more like just the concept of the wasteland being like a lot of potential. Like if everything that you are is like stripped away, then like what emerges from that. And so I kind of like carried that into my adulthood and into college and stuff. And then I feel like once Fury Road came out, I was like, oh, okay, like I like this, I can vibe with this. Like I like the desert, and like I think it was like there's like some video games like that kind of emulate the dust punk vibe. But I feel like once kind of Fury Road happened, I was like, oh, okay, this is like there's a lot that you can do with this that you can kind of play with and have fun, and it's not just angry sad dude trying his best to like get all his belongings back.
That is, I swear to God, could that please, if there's any talented Photoshop people, just they do the fake music and the fake movie posters like Mad Max, really sad dude trying to get his belongings back. That's the title. If you want to dive further in particular little vignettes, I'm a big fan of minutia, especially about the VHS days. I'm such a man. I still think even though vinyl's coming back, that there's a little growing community. There's people who are doing like mock-ups. Here's some in the edit. That way to like retroactively fold it into the distant past. Do you have any particular little vignettes, little anecdotes for watching Mad Max on a particular day in a particular setting? Anything like that? One
of my earliest memories of the Mad Max movies are watching them in the what I like to call Sunday afternoon television programming wasteland. Yes. Because when you only had 5 or 6 channels on a television that had rabbit ears and no cable, they didn't know what to show, so they would just put on old movies. And watching Road Warrior and Thunderdome in that format, broken up, with commercials over the course of 2 hours, that was my exposure to it. And so I fell in love with it as a child. I've never lived in a world without all 3 Mad Max movies. So as soon as I saw it broadcast, I loved it. And Jessie, I'm sure that's very similar to your situation. I'm probably treading old ground here.
Well, there you go. I can dig it. And how about yourself, Jessie?
Well, just to build on that, like the idea of like being a young kid and just like kind of having your eyes like blasted open to like the Mad Max world and stuff, it has like such like a uniqueness to it. Like I feel like it's very much like the birth of like this like desert wasteland kind of like dust punk vibe that people are kind of like into now. And like as a kid, it's very easy to watch it and be like, I have literally never seen anything like this before. Like Mad Max has such like has such a grip on not just like the concept of like being in a desert and like suffering, but like the world building that's like associated with like the Mad Max world, right? And I definitely can relate to like watching it and being like, oh, there's nothing else like this. Everything else is trying to be this.
Perfect. All I was going to say, so you know how Jurassic Park has basically low-key patented dinosaur films? For me, and where basically anything, if anyone tries to do anything dinosaur, with the exception of Dinotopia, which I think is slumbering, but they're working on it, that is going to fucking dominate. I cannot wait for Dinotopia to take Jurassic Park's crown in terms of like dinosaurs. Anyway, but seriously, like, you know, Borderlands, what is it, Rage, all of these other kind of essentially Mad Max, and there's like an Overwatch character or something. Look, I'm glad people are having fun, and clearly what it does, it is I'm not like anti, because they do lead to a breadcrumb trail of like what originated this, how did this begin, and you end up in like the wasteland, the OG. But that's what George Miller did, this like, you know, emergency room doctor who was like, how the fuck are people getting these injuries? And then he dove into this, he went down this rabbit hole of you know, wanting to you know, apply all of his like mythological curiosity and like human nature and psychology and where that could lead. And he never really, I mean, that first, it was shocking when I first saw, maybe this is something that's well trodden territory in like Mad Max podcasts, but yeah, that first film I had heard, I think I'd seen even Fury Road first before the first Mad Max. It's trippy, and we're going to go into our Fury Road stories as well. But it was just like here in Australia. I mean, that just looked like Australia. That first film, it was just you know, and but just that idea of it falling apart, like you were saying, you know, that notion of how we got there. And now Fury Road is the, when you actually thought like Road Warrior was like the quintessential, it's like, how do you make the quintessential even more quintessential, you know? And it was like you sift all that, you have Road Warrior, and then, you know, obviously Thunderdome, we'll talk about Thunderdome's like not the black sheep, but it's just like the Thunderdome's just Thunderdome. You know what I mean?
That was the one I watched today. I was like,
yeah?
I should catch up. And so I watched Fury Road yesterday. And then today I was like, which of the two am I going to watch today? And I was like, oh, oops. Okay.
Okay. Also, I do appreciate the goggles.
Thoughts. Oh, thank you. That. I got these quite a while ago.
Okay. Obviously, Rick, like I said, Rictus, the beard, very apocalyptic. This is my own design tattoos. When I actually watched the film, I was like, oh, seeing all these guys like super tattooed with like their, you know, their blood type and stuff. I was like, nifty. But this is just my own kind of morphogenesis patterns. A little bit just evoking of not direct, because that's, you know, we respect. I don't really think to get like actual Aboriginal. That's you know, just out of respect. But it's my own sort of interpretation of like cell structure and all that. And there's a little thing which we'll talk about later with how, you know, oldest living culture still now, like the Aboriginals. And you know, Griffa in the game, which they tapped into, but I was like, ooh, if you wanted me to fall in love with Mad Max even more, if they could do a little bit what Dune does with like, they tap into Arabic culture a bit, and they say, well, what is a culture that is so like so timeless in some of its components that it survived for like, I mean, in Dune's case, like tens of thousands of years. I would love for like, you know, Anya Taylor-Joy's like, you know, the Vuvolini, all of that, the Green Place. I would love for them to like to interact with like some just like the wisest, the ones who stay the fuck out, who have who keep that like the old ways, get away from all the gasoline and all that, and they're just nomads, and they're just like a bunch of really chilled out indigenous Australians who are like, we just let them have their weird post-apocalypse, and we're just chilling. We just sort of nomadically. So, but we've just stumbled into story predictions for Furiosa. We can jump in and out. If I were to just confront each of you, like if I jumped out in an alleyway, instead of mugging you, I was like, what is your story prediction for Mad Max for Furiosa? So, Jessie, go for it.
Okay, cool. So, I actually, before you sent me the link to Mad Max Bible, I didn't really have any predictions. I just usually when I now where I am in my life, I'm like surprise me, whatever happens. But then I watched the video you sent me, and now I'm kind of hoping for they've got a Coliseum thing happening, and so I am okay. So what if we have a situation where Furiosa, she's kidnapped, and then is it a situation where she not just has to fight for her life as everybody does, but is in this Coliseum atmosphere where she's trying to escape, but she has to do all these fights, and then potentially that could be where she loses her arm, or things go bad, and maybe at the end, if she's gonna come out, she can't die, so I feel given where this falls in the timeline, one character is gonna survive at the end of this, and it's gonna be her, but her victory could be what has a Morton Joe scoop her up, where he's oh yeah, you're dope, you're the toughest, so you're gonna come with me, and then what other choice does she have? And it's kind of, and not just in a, oh, I'm forcing you to do this, but they what he has going on is objectively pretty dope when you go from being human trafficked into a death game, and then it's do you want to go back out, or do you want to come eat and drink?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for this Furiosa movie, is that we need to see what makes Furiosa special enough that she would not get tossed in with the wives and stay as an imperator. We need to see her do something so amazingly heroic, or impress a Morton Joe in some sort of amazing way. The trickiest thing about this movie that I have been mulling over for the last several days is the idea that we are following Furiosa's story over a number of years, because looking through George Miller's filmography, a lot of it is narratives that take place over, days, weeks, maybe months, depending on which movie you're watching. I think some of the Happy Feet movies take place over longer stretches, but how is he going to show the passage of time? Is it going to be a sort of musical biopic where Furiosa is getting ready to drive the rig and she's got to think about her life before she can get out and drive? Or is it going to be more of a Northman situation where she's kidnapped at the beginning and she's I'm going to save myself, I'm going to kill this person, and I'm going to get back home eventually? I'm really interested in what kind of vibe we're going to get, editing and story-wise.
I dig it. Very succinctly put. And now, obviously, because we referenced the Northman, there's also some Norse myth stuff, even though it's this weird warped interpretation because of the wasteland, the repurposing Valhalla. They're just these fucking post-apocalyptic just guys who picked up on tiny little threads because they just saw some old literature. But anyway, back to the Northman. I just love that, how he is rowing away. Amleth, the progenitor of Hamlet from Shakespeare, I will save you, mother. I will kill you, uncle. And that one is fucking incredible. Love the Northman. Thank you for that. I hadn't thought of that. And now you've got me thinking about, and yes, thank you, Jessie, as well, this idea of what would have to precipitate for the scenario of Fury Road to be what it is, which is that inkling, that first little germ of an idea of George crossing the street in LA and being what if it was a story about a warrior woman rescuing 5 other women, and that's what that's such a powerful notion. And what I want this film to do is essentially do what Rogue One did for the original Star Wars, which was almost sacrilege at the time, but it actually works for me personally as a big Star Wars guy too. I can see you are too, Rick, which is that when I now see Luke in that trench, I'm not just thinking about the Rebel Alliance on Yavin. I'm thinking about Cassian and Chirrut and how much they risked. So it literally deepens that groove of threat and stakes. So what I would love is to potentially give Immortan some dimensionality, to have it be so that when we are watching Fury Road, not that there would be an element of tragedy you don't want to mess that up too much, they miraculously didn't do that too badly with Vader by giving him that kind of backstory. Let's actually open that one up. What are the potential, not to get all like, I'm the furthest thing from like the clicky, like, will they screw up? I fucking hate YouTube for that reason. Like, will they fuck up this and, they're going to make a mistake or whatever. But I am curious, how can they handle Immortan in this film where they preserve his insanity, preserve that mythologization, which he's like, his horse mask is like this iconic thing now, without detracting from it, but also dimensionalizing him. So let's go, Rick, because we did Jessie before. Go for it. And then we'll circle around.
Honestly, I think when it comes to Immortan Joe's story, we've got an amazing resource in the prequel comics that we can pull from. And even when you've got the comic book that's focused on Immortan Joe, it's always just action. Like him doing something. You don't get a lot of that internal dialogue stuff. And if we only ever see Immortan Joe as a character of action in this Furiosa movie, and we don't delve into his like, I'm Immortan Joe and I have feelings. Like I don't want to know about Immortan Joe's feelings. I want to see Immortan Joe do things and enact change on the world. That's what makes Immortan Joe the Immortan in my eyes, is that he is just a character of, force and change and whatnot. I don't think I don't want to hear him, wax.
You don't want to see how he gets every single one of those medals. You don't want to see that.
No, I don't want to see him
fake.
trying to woo his wives. I don't want him being like, I had a bad fish the other day and I feel sad about that. I don't want to hear those words. I feel insert emotion here coming out of his horse-faced mask.
Okay, cool. All right. All right, I can dig that. Okay, how about you, Jessie?
I kind of agree, honestly. Like, I remember like when villains used to have sympathetic backstories, but it's very like cool motive, still murder kind of thing, where it's like, okay, so like you've got like your reasons why you're doing this, but what you're doing is still objectively bad. Like I don't need a redemption arc for Immortan Joe. Like he's a bad guy who does bad things, who like participates in like horrific human rights violations. Like I don't need to feel bad for him, even if he's like, everybody has a rough time in this world. Yes. Everybody's got a rough time, so like I'm kind of like, as far as my villains go, like I'm okay if villains just like do bad things, like that's why they're the villain. They're doing bad things for their own gain. So if anything, I feel like if anything, like they should double down where he's like, no, I do what I want and people love me for it. People admire me for the power I have to exert over others, and then thus give me more power to control the world around me. If anything, I think like in order to become like Immortan Joe, I didn't read his comic, but I think like to become like Master of the Citadel, like I wouldn't be surprised if he has to commit some like very personal betrayals. Like maybe he has friends and then he's like, you know what I like more than friends? Power.
You just sorry, Rick, is it okay? You catalyzed something, Jessie.
Yeah.
So there is a potential for a dynamic between Furiosa and Immortan, where we do see what builds up to him essentially, not having this thing where he basically, we very much see it in Fury Road that he sees women as like property, and he doesn't value the feminine like at all. But that's why she sticks out like a thorn, like this fucking warrior woman with missing an arm, who is like his most trusted lieutenant, So to find out how that got to where it did is going to be a thing of, man, do I owe you this? Did I do something? Did you do something for me that I begrudgingly did this for you? What comes to mind for me? I mean, I'm thinking of like Game of Thrones. I'm thinking about like other brutal worlds where like because of that sort of the gender divide or whatever. Like what is like how the woman has to, like Brienne of Tarth, for example, like. And she's by far like one of the best swordsmen, but she just has to deal with all the bullshit misogynistic crap.
Yeah, she's a woman, so she doesn't get recognized for that in her world.
It's just like this automatic bullshit thing. And that's why we're going to see a lot of the green place stuff, a lot of that, the Vuvolini stuff, which I cannot wait because I love the Vuvolini. I love that fucking clan of old women on their bikes, these sniper rifle badass fucking legends. I love them. But what I was thinking with Furiosa is if she and Immortan like are in a scrap together, That's basically in battle in various mythologies, cultures, is like if you prove yourselves in some kind of fight, then things are awarded. Like, oh, you had my back here, and what I think is going to happen is, as you said, some great thing is going to be required, some atrocity, frankly. Like there's the what we've seen a little bit, again, 3, 2, 1, a little bit of filming set spoilers. People, if you're listening, you don't want to know too much about what's on set happening. Okay, so yeah, skip forward a bit, maybe a minute or two. But obviously, and it's not too much of a spoiler, Immortan has a gang. It's basically it's these two gangs. It's Dementus and Immortan, and I think that's going to be this battle that happens, or this conflict that happens. What I think will happen is we'll see. I just saw we jumped into it a little bit, which was the Queen's Gambit, right? And I saw Anya, like this notion of this child that has these intriguing, stands out from the crowd kind of qualities, and I can see him bringing her up on the battlefield like a lone wolf, like a wolf and cub kind of situation. But she, learns from him, learns to be brutal, learns to be a warrior. He always, maybe through her, I don't know if they will show any, again, Immortan humanizing tragedy, I don't know. But what she'll notice is, like, now that he has this opportunity to take over the Citadel, he goes down a path of like complete atrocity, like murdering families, who knows, where she was like in The Northman. I don't know, have you guys both seen The Northman? Mm-hmm. Have you seen that film, Jesse? Oh, Jesse Frozen? Oh, good. You haven't seen it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in the woods, so like if I disappear, like I'll be back as soon as possible.
That's okay. But did you check that one out, the Northman, at all? The movie? Ooh, just as I said that.
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't see the Northman.
No worries. Okay, well, it's not.
I'm so sorry. No,
that's okay.
No, I didn't.
That's okay. So not too much of a spoiler, but basically, he becomes a berserker. That's in the trailer. Mm-hmm. And berserker in kind of Scandinavian, Vikings, like they basically become beasts in battle. Like they're so ruthless, so terrifying, so intimidating that's how they got that reputation. And he becomes one, but at some point he knows that he can't continue that path. He has higher ideals, he has a higher conscience about not going down that path. And I think that is probably, I feel, would be very compelling to see Furiosa, like, forged in the flame of battle, like have every ounce of the same brutality as her fellow war boys and all of that. We also have Stranger Things as a great example of 11, in this lineup of I think it is mostly guys in and she sort of has to, like, shaved head, like has to, like, is brought up around all of this fucking hypercharged, must prove ourselves masculinity. She's forged in that same fire. She has that same level of brutality, if not more, because she has to push even more to survive, as a woman in that world. So, like, the most lethal, the most dangerous of them all, and yet she is also the one that has that conscience awakening, which is interesting because we find her in Fury Road still with Immortan. But mid conspiracy, mid planning to escape. So do you think we'll be brought all the way up to that point, or do you think there might be like a time gap? Any of the directions I've talked about, you can go for it, guys.
Oh, I think the perfect point to finish this movie with would be Furiosa being given the title of Imperator, because we've got the prequel comics that kind of show her formulating this plan to bust out the wives and kind of setting the stage for her to start the Fury Road movie. But like, I think that would just be like the perfect, we start Fury Road by Immortan Joe announcing his Imperator Furiosa. And so if we end Furiosa with him announcing her as an Imperator, it's kind of like poetry, it rhymes.
Okay. Cut to that clip of George Lucas. But okay, so Jesse, how about yourself?
I think that's like a pretty good place to like take the story to.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
like end there. I kind of agree because like the Furiosa comic, like I did not like it, so like I don't need to cover that. But what I think would be interesting for Furiosa is like through this like creation of the Berserker, like I don't think just from what you said about the Northmen, where he's like, oh, I can't go this far. I don't think she is granted the ability to like stop. I don't think she gets the luxury of like turning away from being violent. But what I think instead she has to do is like hold on to compassion. So like I'm gonna pretend the Furiosa comic like doesn't exist, and I think what I think would be cool to see is like she has to commit these violent acts because that's what is required of her. But from being raised like with the Vuvolini like in the green place, I think the lesson that she'll take forward is like still trying to be compassionate to people who need her, like the wives.
I can dig it. Also, any kind of choppiness I'll be editing, I'll be this wizard of making it seem as though there were never any, you know. Also, shouts out to you for living in the woods. You're probably the most like level-headed of us all, living in all these like, yeah, there you go, just like mellowing out in the woods. I say, you know what I say, enjoy the woods and stuff while you can, because we're either going to turn into Blade Runner 2049 or Mad Max. It's one of those two is the future for humankind. Anyway.
Well, I was kind of like raised like in a very rural situation, and then like for my education in my 20s, I like moved into the city, and I lived like in a city for 10 years, and then I was like, I'm good, bye. Thanks, going back to live the rural life.
Okay, I can.
The only problem is the internet.
Yes, and I think that's going to improve down the line anyway. And like Zoom's going to, in like 10 years, Zoom's going to be like 8K. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
There you go. No, you go for it, Rick.
In the meantime, we just have to worry that the Wi-Fi points in Canada are just being carried around by moose, and sometimes they wander a little too far away.
That's right.
And we get connection issues. So.
Cut to any out I was able to find.
Feels that way out here.
Of cybernetic moose. There should be a story about a cybernetic moose by now.
They're already so violent. They're already unstoppable. They don't need to be robots. They're already so dangerous.
All right, I get that. This is great. The idea of the anointing, because what I love a lot about the Mad Max universe is these strange but incredible rituals and beliefs that have grown out of the fractured world. You know, they've picked up on this word Valhalla. Well, they might not even really fully understand what that is, but they carry it, they preserve it. So what I would be, we have cut to some of the set photos in the edit of this shaman-like creature guy with like these horns, and I'm wondering if like in some like he calls it neo medieval. So assumedly, when she does earn this, like, that would be amazing. I also love how willing you both are to like dive out 600 days out to dive out into the unknown and like do some mind's eye cinema for the people like mowing their lawns and like pushing their prams. Like, oh my god, fucking already getting stoked about Furiosa and the plot and doing some predictions. But imagine like that figure being like, oh, you know, you sent for me, like I have to like, you know, we have to get this like weird holy man like to like come and be part of this big imperator ceremony. And who knows if there's going to be like all kinds of like fights to the death or trials. For example, I don't know if it's clarified in the comics too much, but if to become the imperator could be one of the central plot things, like so that there's maybe you know, in some cultures it's like, well, you need to, I mean, it's like mythology or whatever, it's like, you know, to be considered like a grail knight or whatever, you need to go into this cave and steal a tooth from this creature and, you know, climb to that highest peak to do this, you know. So it would be kind of interesting to see the neo-medieval version of Furiosa needing to kind of go through these like trials to like become an imperator.
Right along that line of thinking, we've seen so many set photos of Furiosa's war rig is how they've been tagging it. But if the structure of the film is okay, Furiosa has been given this job by the Immortan, like we're far enough along that she's one of his lieutenants, but she's not an Imperator yet, and like this is the Imperator test, and she needs to jump in her war rig and do this run, and as she's going from point A to point B, we're seeing flashbacks that inform what she does as this a proto-imperator. Like, she gets into this situation that reminds her of when she was kidnapped. She gets into that situation that reminds her of rolling with Dementus's group as a captive. And so that's another way that the movie could be structured.
Yeah,
just make sure that the flashbacks have to inform what is happening in the present day storyline. We can't Book of Boba Fett this, where the flashbacks have nothing to do with what is currently happening, but that is a totally different franchise.
I appreciate it. Well deserved. Look, there were some cool components of that, but that's a well deserved call out. Like, even John Carter did a better thing there, where it's like he's repressed his battle spirit, and then he's fighting all those Tharks, and then he's reminded of him burying his wife, and that's really like, so I can dig that. But yeah, Jessie, I think you wanted to say something, or no? Perhaps. Nothing? Oh, good.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I saw you leaning forward, but basically, by the way, because the way that the edit's going to be, I'll cut out as many silences as possible.
Trying to play cool here.
That's okay. But even when there is silences, like, I've got some Mad Max, like atmosphere and wasteland stuff in the background. So all that people are going to do is just check their phones and be like, peaceful wasteland sounds cool.
Oh, excellent.
And then Jessie comes back. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So I'm thinking, like, what I really rewatching Thunderdome today, what I kind of like is he does this thing over and over again where he's kind of fulfilling the role that people want him to be, even though, like, he doesn't really want to be that guy. And I can almost see something like that for Furiosa, where they have, like, this culture of, like, the Colosseum and like this idea of, like, warriors and glory, in the same way that they kind of like Valhalla, the role Valhalla and being anointed kind of played for the war boys. So if they're doing this Colosseum thing, I can almost see her, like, being forced into it and being like, okay, I'll fight if I have to, and then, like, maybe becoming the imperator, like, is the goal, but she's just like, I just want to live, like, I just want to live through this. And so she almost, like, reluctantly or is, like, forced into this role of being an imperator, because there might not be anywhere else for her to turn. Like, if she's even though she, like, wants to return to the green place, like, she just might not have a choice. And so Max often, like, kind of is just, like, doing things because he has no choice and he wants to survive. And so I very much see Furiosa as, like, reflecting that kind of, like, hesitancy or that resistance to, like, being, like, this big bombastic, like, worshipped warrior, right? Because like the war boys all look up to her as, like, an authority figure, and she is, like, one of Immortan Joe's, like, closest allies, but it might not be something that she's even trying to go for. Like, she might just be trying to survive on a day-to-day basis, and then she's, like, forced to become, like, this leader of all these people. And she's, and like Max, she's like, okay, fine. Like, if this is what I have to do to survive.
Unless you had something, Rick, I had something. Up to you.
Go for it.
You're good. So, to keep her secret is going to be very interesting, because I know that there is going to be a point, like you said, very succinctly, Jessie, the idea of Furiosa catching on to, like, well, if my life in this world is either slavery or worse, or then what's like, how do I find a place not only of safety but where I can actually help other people escape? So I wonder if there's going to be either we saw one guy, I call him like Crazy Lips or something. I don't know if there'll be someone who catches on to her, who's like they come up together as, like, fellow, like, war pups, I don't know, it's war, that's a speculative word. They come up together, he catches on to her ideas, and then she has to kill him to stop him from telling, Immortan, or whoever about this actual kind of plan she has. That's very interesting. Yeah, I can really dig that. Just the idea of
It could also be, like, the redemption that she's looking for too, if, like, that person she has to kill is, like, a close ally.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I definitely have not thought a lot about, is just how much Fury Road focuses on this idea that Furiosa wants redemption. So we need to see why, like, what does she need redeeming from? And like you said, whether that's a betrayal or some sort of horrible act that she commits knowing full well that it's horrible. I like where you're going with this, Jessie.
Very much dig. If it's okay, if it pleases the war council. I have a couple of extra things I want to just dive out into, because this is episode 1, The Road to Furiosa. The idea being it would be a pun on Fury Road, and it also refers to. Thank you for the charitable laugh. I appreciate that. Puns are great. Thank you. It alludes to the idea of Mad Max doing a little bit of what happened with God of War, of all things. And it's weird, they have this Valhalla shared aspect. Cory Barlog was working with George Miller on Mad Max game, and I'm recording God of War after this as well. And what happened with that series is that for about close to 15 years or 10 years at least, this story was about this one guy. It was about Kratos, you know? And when this rebirth, in a way, it's a sequel, it's part of the lore, and that's what Fury Road is. It's a part of the lore, but it was a low-key reboot. It's now Furiosa. Like, Furiosa is this person that we've pivoted to, and we actually, I mean, the creator of Mad Max himself is not really hiding the fact that he's more interested in telling her story. And we might call this like the God of War universe for Kratos, but it's now, Atreus is very interesting, a lot of other characters, Freya, etc. And for this, first of all, I think the film is just going to be called Furiosa. I think I'm going to change the countdown thing. I've called it Furiosa Mad Max story, but I think George Miller is going to be like, I have the clout now. I don't want fucking Mad Max's name on this thing. I want you to do your fucking millisecond Google and figure out that this is a Mad Max film. And I'm not going to put Mad Max in the title. It's just going to be Furiosa. So what I wanted to get from you guys is, of the 600 days that we have roughly to go, what kind of, again, little vignettes are you looking forward to, like on the way to that, like wrapping of filming, first teaser? Where would you like to see the first teaser? What would you like to see in the first teaser? Merchandise, you know, all kinds of interesting little tidbits on the way. You know, what do you guys reckon? Let's start with Jessie.
Well, for me, whenever I'm really looking forward to a film, I kind of like, I'm a big fan of seeing what the costume design kind of looks like, because I feel like what your characters are wearing is very much like reflective of like what the vision is going to be for your film, for your world, right? Costumes are informed like by what's going on around them, and like what their role in the story, and how they think of themselves, and like what other people think of them. So I'm always a big fan of like costumes. I actually like now mostly avoid like teaser trailers and like trailers in general. I've been fooled too many times. I saw the Godzilla movie and I fell asleep in theaters. I wanted to like Suicide Squad, you know, and I've been betrayed too many times. So like I don't believe trailers when they come out. They're like fun, like in a way that like eating a lot of candy can be fun, but like sometimes you feel like you don't actually have, you know. So that for me, it's always like what's the look? What is like the actual look of it?
Okay, I like that. How about yourself, Rictus?
I'm very much in the same boat as Jessie. I'm very much looking forward to the first character posters that they always put out for these sorts of movies, like the Furiosa movie, and then it's a full spread of Anya Taylor-Joy in her getup, a full spread of Chris Hemsworth in his getup with his ridiculous red Santa Claus beard. You know, whoever else that it comes out is a major character in this movie, but I'm looking forward to seeing those just to get a first taste of what the characters are going to look like. But at the same time, I'm also very much looking forward to that first experience of seeing a trailer in the theater, just going to whatever film, and then suddenly the Warner Brothers logo comes up and it turns into cinders, and then we get to see whatever style of trailer they cut together. I'm sure it's going to be absolute madness, as like the Fury Road trailer was. But the way that they used Verdes Dias Irae in that first Fury Road trailer, and I'm just wondering, okay, what kind of music are we going to get? What kind of cuts with the different vehicles? How much action are we going to see? Are they going to go subtle with it and maybe not preload it with a bunch of action? I'm very curious to see what happens. Absolutely.
Okay, this is great. So we have Comic-Con coming up. It's hopefully by the time this comes out, it doesn't like instantly date ourselves because we, you know, didn't discuss some possible amazing secret teaser they might have, teaser poster, whatever. I remember when Godzilla 2014 was announced back in like 2011 or 2012 or something. They did have like a super early poster, and it came out of nowhere. So it's not outside of their own possibility. But building on what you've both raised about like the road to Furiosa, one of the things that I like, the first teaser is great, and I really like the idea of like seeing how the aesthetic is developing. But what I like is the overall cultural thing that's going to happen, which it's covered. Mad Max Bible covered it. There's also a great YouTube video. I'll put it in the description. It's called something like Insert was a shit fest. So that's this person. He discusses how like, even if it's, I don't know if it's strictly great films that just had a tough time being made. That's what Fury, we had the flooding, sadly. And again, another thing, most important in the description is please, New South Wales, not long ago we had those people still recovering from the flooding that interrupted Furiosa filming. So please head over to that. But what I am, hopefully without any further, like, again, it's not even about the film. It's about, the film and the crew and cast being safe and all that. But what I'm looking forward to is Miller kind of getting a little bit of a mini holiday from like 10 to 15 year development cycles. Like this will just, they solved the lawsuit with the Warner Brothers. They pushed it from 2023 to 2024. That's fine. It's nowhere near the battle that it was of getting this from like 1999 to 2015. It won't be that. So what I'm looking forward to is George, potentially doing The Wasteland after this, just to tie up. I think he'll have made his, his 6 films essentially, yeah, and then the idea of this growing and exploring, as you said, exploring the wasteland, and I think, for example, there are too many concentrated pockets. I think there's just way too fucking many. You've seen it on podcast things. There's too many Star Wars podcasts, too many Harry Potter podcasts, and I want that balancing of like, I would love to see, for example, like an official Mad Max celebration, not just so that we can divert some of the power that's going to these big kind of bloated, like there's just way too much of it. And I would love to see an official thing to kind of pick up pace. And now that like the groundwork that Fury Road and Furiosa will have done, like Furiosa will actually benefit a lot from now. There's this cultural awareness of Mad Max. Like when you see teal plus yellow plus brown, it's basically Fury. Yeah, like it created such an iconic look. So I would love to see that kind of grow in a really beautiful way, which is like supervised by Miller, not Disneyfied. They have enough franchises. I want this to be its own thing, within, like, I think Warner Brothers are going to take care of it. And so, yeah, and then inevitably I would like, so basically my answer to this roundtable is the overall growth, seeing all those beautiful symptoms of like this thing, other directors coming in for other films. But I truly would love to see, in a way that fits perfectly, that has to exist, that deserves to exist, a HBO Max exploration of it, like a limited series, and really put anything Disney Plus to shame. Like really make that thing. They're going to do Dune: The Sisterhood soon as well. I think the HBO, especially with Last of Us, I think they're about to throw down the gauntlet, so to speak, with some of this stuff. So we could do a roundtable on some of what I brought up. I guess we could do a mini roundtable on the idea of a series at some point. We could do that if you want.
Well, I think the big question with a series would be, would you insist on it being live action, or would you be good with it being animated?
Well,
because
I wanted
one of
live
those
action
is
because I want
much
to
more
get
expensive.
I want to get you both in.
Which one?
I know.
Which one?
You could do both. ¿Por qué no dos? You could have both. That could be cool.
Very Tank Girl. See, that's very Tank Girl. I like that.
We do a Bioshock thing too. I keep manifesting. I know that it'll come true. We talk about this stuff. I bring those co-hosts on, and I know that just my friend David Lightbringer actually just got invited to the House of the Dragon premiere, because he is a prominent like House of the Dragon YouTuber. That tends to happen with this sort of thing, and I tend to always, like, hopefully not irrationally, just say like anyone who's been on any of these podcasts, I will somehow get them in something down the line. Because how cool would that be to be like, yo, like, channel's going like this, we've had so and so chime in, producers, whatever, hey, there's going to be this one day where we need a crowd of people, and I'll basically cattle prod you both onto the set of like Mad Max 8 or 10 or something.
That would be it. See, and that's my trip to Australia right
Okay,
there.
done. Perfect. Because you know it's going to be filmed here. Like he really wants to keep it in house. Okay, so that's it. We've officially fucking
Cool.
the plan has been made to have you both come over and the filming was not too far from here. I sent out just to see if they needed but they had already wrapped by then. But yeah, that would be really cool. And maybe once we actually avoid our actual apocalypse with some of this intense war shit going on, holy fuck, it would be good to get. I say for all this stuff, like it belongs on the screen. Like keep it out of the real world. Like it belongs in cautionary tales. You know what I mean? So there you go. I have like 50 million questions. I have like very specific questions I want to ask each of you. But I just love how free flowing we've been going. Okay, well, I'm a sucker for vignettes, and we're going all over the place.
Hopefully, my internet doesn't
hopefully it doesn't
take
crap
a dump
out
on me here. It's struggling. I'll be honest.
Take a dump on me.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So we'll throw it to Jessie. When you went to see Fury Road, like you hear about this movie. And you go, and I love when people tell stories of like how they actually went to see, like what did they do that day, and what their takeaway was. So you and Fury Road in particular, that film, like did you go with friends, family? How was it?
So I saw the trailer, and my expectations were like on the floor, you know, like a movie had been in development for like 15 years. Okay, like that's a red flag for sure, you know. Like I had very low expectations, but my friends and my partner were like, no, like let's go, it's a movie theater kind of movie, let's go. And so I like begrudgingly went, and then as soon as I sat down in the chair and the movie started, I was like just like blasted and like taken on a ride, and the movie didn't slow down for like 45 minutes before that movie lets you like take a breath. And like it's like there was just some shots that happened, and I was like, oh, this is going hard. Like this is going hard. It has like a vision. And then like when like the wives are revealed, I was like, oh, this movie's gonna be so much more than I give it credit for. And it was. And like it's usually one of my top 5 movies now, you know. So like going to see it, like I went from like, okay, sure, like cars in the desert, like never seen that before, to like, oh my god, this movie,
that's it,
it's perfect, I love it. Like it gave me everything. Like I was so happy.
I can dig that. I dig that so hard. How about yourself, Rick?
Asking me to remember the specifics on any date in the past is a tall order, but I will do my best.
Go for it.
I was definitely taken in by the advertisements for Mad Max Fury Road because I've always been a fan of that. And I am admittedly a very cheap date when it comes to George Miller. He does not need to do much to get me in the seat. But I remember going with my wife, who's also my co-host on the Mad Max Minute, and us sitting down to the movie, and me being present for the first part of the movie and enjoying everything I'm seeing. But then once we get to the buzzard attack, that's when it really hooked me into the story of it all. That first big action scene just wowed me. Because, I mean, I think most people seeing Fury Road for the first time, they're a bit taken aback by the chase through the Citadel tunnels and the over and under cranking, and then the title comes in, and then you're shown all the wretched and whatnot, and you're like, where the hell am I? What happened? Where's the Thunderdome? And it's like, we are so far away from Thunderdome right now. But just that first on the road action sequence just hooked me, and it was me in the theater sitting there like Hugh Jackman in that one movie with the glowing tree, and it's just my face covered in light, just staring in awe up at the screen. I don't usually see movies more than once in the theater. I think I went back and I watched it 2 or 3 times in the theater just because I needed to experience it in that setting.
Yeah, man. For me, it was myself, and I'm just going to shout them both out by name, my pals Oliver and Brendan, here for any Canberrans listening, over in Belconnen. Everything's ends with O. Ori, specifically that noise. So you are, so you're Jezza, and you're
Nice.
Rico. Rico and Jezza. You
like
guys
it.
are officially, that's your Mad Max names, which are just Australian. And we went to, this was not planned. And I just now, like a fucking idiot, just realized the sink there. It's tiny. It's going to make your eyes roll. But we watched the movie, and I think afterwards we went to Max Brenner and just Mad Max Brenner. Oh god, so fucking lame. And we just had a bunch of like delectable, amazing chocolate amazingness, and we just fucking talked about this movie. So I'm the visual artist. I really love the connection that visuals particularly have to storytelling and like oral tradition too, which is where the podcast stuff comes from. Rick, you say this thing about things fading. For me, I'm literally creating a pensieve. That's what the podcast is. The Topic Podcast Network is like when I eventually lose it, I can't remember shit. I'll just go back and be like, what was I thinking around about that time, and I can remember that way.
That's what I had to do for the video. When you were like, "Oh, I saw this video," I was like, "Oh, what did I say?
What
did I say about
that's
this?"
right. And I think you're very like I can see you've got both of you seem. I mean, you obviously do your podcast with Mad Max Minute. You make your videos. I really sense in each of your own spheres. I can't wait to see all of that kind of unfolding of like you've got your Mad Max Minute, but I want to see more from you. I want to see more from you, Jessie. What I basically had in that moment of like, I was like, first of all, I appreciated George Miller as a creative like a trillion times more. It was insane. Like I already respected him for, I grew up on Babe and then Happy Feet I really enjoyed, and Mad Max I had some awareness of. I thought it was kind of like sort of from the outside thinking, oh, this is pretty cool. But then when I went fully in and I just started hearing that level of just unanimous praise, and usually when the praise has a groupthink kind of quality to it, where it doesn't sync up with what I'm seeing, then I kind of question it, which sometimes happens with some Marvel movies. It's like, there's no way this thing's an 8.9, and I go, and the goddamn cookie cutter Marvel movie is like a 5 at best. But collectively, people are starting to kind of brainwash themselves into thinking some of these things are actually good, which they're not. Sorry to throw some shade at some certain films I won't mention, but when I went into this thing, it was
for every Marvel movie.
Yes, it was an actual mythology. Like there was an actual universe. It felt in some ways like seeing Star Wars for the first time. There was, for example, the map, like the bullet farm and the fields, the swamps and stuff. Like it was like Mad Max's palette like spilled over finally, and there was color. Even though obviously the desert primarily, but the hues, the different, just the colorscapes was just something. I was like, I was not expecting this, and obviously a lot of it filmed practically, but I think it's probably the standout example of how to creatively, artistically meld CG with real life stunts, and he recognized, like, especially with the polecats, that stuff there, like, had to do that practically for it to register. But there was some perfectly implemented green screen stuff, like erasing wires and stuff, and I was like, this particularly the one shot was the guy, I'll cut to it now, like a land strider from Dark Crystal, this fucking thing in the swamp. Like I was like, okay, what the fuck is Mad Max suddenly? It's all these different things now. It's like, and that's why I was so excited by it. And it wasn't, you didn't have George Miller's like, it was complicated, but when the RPG, that open world thing was announced, I was like, let's go. So, and I know that in the background they will do it. George Miller does want to create like a proper him approved next gen game, which is going to be another topic of the show when Mad Max Bible comes on. So that was the shot for me. I was like, this, and then what we're going to see, frankly, we can do a roundtable on that, is what else would you like to see? Like it's roughly going to be the same area because we know about Immortan and stuff, but do you want to see something like completely unexplored? Like I have this thing of wanting to see like Aboriginal cave systems and stuff or whatever, but is anything else jumping for you guys of like, I would love to see something like that, like brand new or anything that comes to mind?
The first thing I thought of was like some kind of forest.
Oh yes, the green place, obviously.
I'm like week 4. I mean, like where I live, I'm like week 4. I think like maybe exploring like some kind of oasis situation. Like I know like that's like what the green place is like was supposed to be. So like maybe we'll get that like in the Road to Furiosa. But when you're like, ooh, what?
Oh my God! Sorry to interrupt.
Do you want to explore? I'm like,
you just made me think of. Yeah, you just made me think of the symbolism, the visual storytelling of like a green place burning, right?
Ooh, and like, it would have to. It would have to,
obviously, and it's gonna be Immortan or whoever Dementis, like this beautiful idyllic place, which will be so nice to explore, like to see what the green place was in its prime. You know, this
and that would also consolidate Joe's power as well. Like if he's the only one with like greenery in any way, like that could be one of the sins that he commits in order to gain this power.
Yeah, and how we see, for example, one thing could be see how we're going crazy. My hair's getting crazier and crazier as we like get more and more excited. You know, this because we do see some green up there with the Citadel. Imagine if we saw like how, and you know. That would then inform the next time we see Fury Road, like seeing how they basically stole a lot of that stuff, and now then every time you see Fury Road from then after, you're like, oh fuck, like these guys, like they totally pillaged like the seed supplies, or they literally just bulldozed it and brought it to the Citadel, you know. We do see from the so how comfortable are you guys knowing set reports and like vehicle? Are you guys good? Or
lay it on.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Go.
We're like 2 years out. Anything could change.
Furiosa's fucking war rig. By the way, this is George Miller. His currency. He works on a insanity economy. Like his every kind of notion of like what can I put on film that you've never seen before. Basically, I have never seen this. This war rig has these two complete, like they spin like this, excavators.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I can imagine the insanity of like excavator fucking combat, like these like high speed chase, and there's like you know, like almost like fighting, like clashing. You know,
we got to see one excavator arm in Fury Road that the Russian guys, that the buzzards had.
Yes,
wow,
yeah.
Fell out of my head. So
cool.
The being able to see, Fury Road, we have one. In Furiosa, now we've got a truck that has 2.
Oh fuck!
So that'll be excellent. I'm very excited to see how they implement the. I'm going to call it a blender. On the back of the tanker, the giant saw blades and chains and spiked balls. Like I want to see that thing get spun up and really do some damage. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
How comfortable are you guys with this thing getting fucking more violent than? Are you guys good? Like, again, he might want to do that to reflect the brutality, you know? What
I thought was like watching Fury Road, like even though like people die and like horrifying things happen, he does a great job at the cutaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true actually. Yeah.
Because really the most
where he never like directly
thing...
shows you like the true horror that does in our minds. It makes it worse. I'm sorry, my internet. But like by like just cutting away, just giving just like a little sprinkle, our minds fill in the blanks, and it makes it so much worse, like in our own minds than if they had actually shown us, right? Because like what you can imagine,
it's way worse.
Will be so much worse than anything that they could actually probably show you on screen.
Yeah, when you think about the violence they showed in Fury Road, the most violent and gory thing they showed was Immortan Joe's face. Everything else was, people getting thrown this way and thrown that way, and they're getting shot and blown up. But we don't have to sit there and, look at human viscera spread across the dirt. We're moving too fast.
A woman has a C-section, and they're like, you're just like cringing the whole time because like it's so disgusting, and this infant is being like tossed around like a doll. But
yeah. Oh my God. That's and
it's just an inch below the edge of the frame.
Quite see it, so you're just like so uncomfortable.
He's back. That character. You know?
Great.
The organic mechanic. Holy shit. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, guys, and once again, actually, by the way, without even knowing, we've already been talking for an hour. How fucking great! Yep. I feel like I made some friends today. Fuck yes. All right. Well, in that case, that kind of. Let's see. Let's because I dare say, hopefully I'm not overstepping, but would you both be willing to come back at some point to riff talk about updates and you good with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent.
Any opportunity.
fuck yeah. Excellent.
sure.
All right. Well, in that case, we can do a final little closing thoughts. But here's the thing. I never actually grabbed your Mad Max IDs because we were just having that much fun. All right. Let's do a quick little round of Mad Max IDs and then farewell the fucking wastelandlings out there and fucking motor off into Valhalla. Okay. All right. Favorite character, favorite scene, favorite vehicle, and favorite... Oh, for me, the music is huge, but depends on you guys. But favorite character, scene, and vehicle. Let's go, Rick.
Well, you put me on the spot.
Speak intuitively. Do not just like immediately. Don't think.
All right. Intuitively speaking, favorite character has got to be Auntie Entity from Beyond Thunderdome. I love the fact that she's a woman that seemingly came from nothing and built up an entire community and ruled over that with an iron fist. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Favorite vehicle might just be the Razor Cola. I know that is sacrilege of all sacrilege, that to take the black on black and turn it into that monstrosity, but I just love how much better suited to the wasteland it is because it's higher up. And favorite scene might be when Max is in the compound and he whistles over everybody to get them to stop arguing so that he can explain that he knows where the rig is and he can get them out.
Oh my God, so concise. Excellent. How about yourself, Jessie?
Favorite character is that's like, I feel like that's the hardest one. I want to my it's literally there's just so, because like Tina Turner, amazing. And then I'm like, oh, like all the wives, and I'm like, Richards. Then I'm like, oh, the Buvallini. There's 5 more. Like, so it's like it's difficult. So I'm gonna say Furiosa because I feel like she encapsulates like she's like this struggle, right? She's like doing her best, but she like still has and care for others, and like she's still able to like rely on others too, even though like that's extremely difficult. So I'm just gonna take the easy route. I'm gonna say Furiosa. My favorite car. Okay, so I'm not I don't know.
I'm not either.
So
that's cool.
So I'm gonna say like I think it's like, is it one of the buzzards that have like the car?
Oh, with the
like
spikes and stuff.
Like, it looks like a hedgehog.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like yes, like because I see that and I'm like, that looks violent. Like that looks like that is intense. And like it's so like it's very of the wasteland to me as well, where they're like,
fuck yeah.
Like everybody stay away.
Yeah. It's basically
my favorite scene. I think is. Yep.
No,
sorry.
No favorite scene. Go.
My favorite scene is probably like when Splendid. Like opens the door to like protect from Joe, because like throughout that movie the whole theme is like objectification, like everybody's used like for what their bodies can provide, not for like who they are as people. But in that moment, like Splendid is using like her body to like protect people. She's using it in a way that she has like power over herself, you know, where she's like, you won't, I know that you value my body more than you value me as a person.
That was I love that.
So I'm gonna use that and it works. And so
I mean, if we're talking about levels of fucking, by the way, it's one thing to be all fucking, you know, crazy fucking, you know, with like armor and you know, vehicle and like whatever that aspect of masculine dominated. It's fine to have all that, but to be basically naked, that's what they are. Like they're in many ways they're just bare to the world. And to have the fucking verve and the fucking balls or whatever the fuck, like the nerves of steel to in that complete vulnerability be like, what's up, you know, fuck, you know, I love Splendid.
I dare you.
Amazing. I fucking dare you, which makes her that level of, you know, badassness even more. Like you don't have armor, you don't have societal cultural power, but you have this.
She's
this
the leader.
moment of
she's
bravery.
The brave one, right? Like in the sense that she's the one that.
Oh fuck yeah! I love that. For me, Miss Giddy, this fucking tattooed. I'm just glad she won. For me, she succeeded. She
nice.
Is this fucking shotgun wielding. I want to see her prequel, by the way, Miss Giddy prequel. I would love to see how she did. You know, because she's basically the Furiosa success story. Like, in many ways. Like she got to old age, which is so rare in the Wasteland, and this
Good
tattoo,
point.
fucking badass. So Miss Giddy prequel all the way. The Giga Horse for the fucking just that name as well, so insane, you know. Or we could talk about the Coma Duforia's fucking amazing, just amazing rig there. So that's vehicle character, but moment, it's interesting. It's obviously going to be between somewhere in Fury Road and Road Warrior, but I think I might have to give it to Nux. His arc, holy fucking shit, what a compressed but believable arc of being a complete zealot to discovering the feminine and being allowing that in after all this fucking, you know, tattooed sores, all of this stuff that would basically narrow his perspective into this one, you know, tunnel towards Valhalla and just praising Immortan Joe and then sacrificing himself. But he has this turn of conscience, and he's one of the hidden favorite characters where that's his sacrifice. He doesn't give himself for a warlord, he gives himself to protect these women. Fuck yeah. No wonder Nicholas Hoult wanted to have that character.
That's a good choice.
So good.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, we did it flip. Usually we would do that at the start, but I just wanted to start riffing with you guys because I just was so fucking stoked to jump on. Did you guys both have a good time on the show?
Yeah, it was a good time. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Terrific. You guys, sadly, we're going to change this because I'm a producer as well, need to be part of the link tree, whatever the fuck, like in your bio somewhere where it's like, I love to do that unfettered PayPal thing where it's like, hey, time is valuable. You gave me your time. Do you have an Etsy store? Something where I can give back. So I will be seeking that out from both of you. And I have literally bullied people into giving me their emails so I can send them something like a PayPal shout or whatever the fuck. So get ready for that. I am going to have a rad time editing this one, adding all the clips, you know. It's going to be a fucking great time. All right. Well, what is on for the rest of your day, Jessie? What's going to happen?
I'm currently doing like an art event called Art Fight, like draw other people's characters just for fun. And so I've just kind of been doing that the last couple of weeks, just to practice like my design skills and like my speed and stuff, and just like, you know, just for fun, just give some people some free art.
That's amazing. I'll be showing pictures of that on the screen and like
thanks
to follow along for sure. I dig that. And when you come back, we're gonna expound more on what each of you guys do. I can't wait to we didn't have a full thing of like the Mad Max Minute. Let's talk about this journey you've all we're gonna have that. This was all just kind of this insane, beautiful, crazy first encounter kind of episode, you know, for sure. But Rick, how about you? Rest of your day?
Oh, rest of my day. Well, I've already had one drink over the course of this recording. I'm definitely going to be going down and grabbing another one. In the near future, we're going to be recording more hiatus content. We've recently finished our 5th season talking about Waterworld on the Mad Max Minute. So we have a handful of hiatus episodes that we're going to be releasing once a month and until we reach the awful wasteland between now and whenever Furiosa comes out. But,
listen,
I've got that to look forward to.
Cut to Michael Jordan saying, listen. Sorry, it's one of my favorite sound bites. Listen, Rick, I don't think Mr. Miller, Dr. Miller, I don't think he and his lovely crew of fucking insane wastelanders will keep us waiting for too long. I think that they're, you know, just, I don't think they'll shell up. I think we might see a trickle out of maybe prequel comics. So don't worry. I don't think you'll be in the wasteland of the wasteland for too long.
I got my fingers crossed.
All right. Guys, this was one of my favorite shows fucking ever. Giant daggy hugs. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
All right. I'll edit this one up and I'll send you the links.
Thank you.
Yay, absolutely. I've got to do the digital hugs. Absolutely. Excellent. Okay. Fucking come to Australia. And I will reach out to you with the links and also with potentially if there's anything discussed at San Diego, and if we got anything right or whatever, I'm going to be spamming you guys like let's record again, you know.
Oh, I'm counting on it.
Cool.
Fucking go. Okay, bye guys. Let's do one of these for the Okay. You good? We're just waiting for the delay. We got you, Jessie. 3.
Guys.
There you go. Jessie's one is
thank
like
God. There we go.
All right. Okay. I love it. No, that was fucking amazing. I love you guys. Take it easy. Bye.
Take it easy.
Thanks for watching. Big hugs all around. Every episode takes many volunteer hours to create. In fact, the Topic Podcast Network is 100% listener supported. We refuse to include distracting like, share, and subscribe requests during the show itself. Only here, after the end, do we feel comfortable humbly asking you, our beloved audience, to consider any form of support that feels true to you. Thanks again.